Today we're going to be working on a Nintendo NSS game console or arcade game system that came in for repair. The package came in a big box. Customer paid $141 for shipping, and he also included an expedited check so we can do this for him as an expedited service. Inside I found this NSS board. Look it up. Those game arcade systems by Nintendo were made in 1990 and discontinued in 1991. I did some research, and only a handful of games, about 12 games for the system. The customer also mailed an SNES game console that we already took apart, and the customer said that he wants some chips replaced because they share the same chips, the CPU and one other chip. Let's read what the customer wrote, and we'll take it from there. Before we start the video, I want to give a shout out to our sponsor, PCBWay. PCBWay is a China Shenzhen-based PCB manufacturer and printed circuit board assembler with more than a decade in the field of PCB prototype and fabrication. They offer a wide variety of services, including 3D printing, CNC machining, sheet metal fabrication, and much more. PCBWay is committed to meeting all your PCB needs. They offer quality, on-time delivery, and competitive pricing. 1 to 2 layer boards starts at $5 with 24 hours turnaround. Get an instant quote by visiting PCBWay.com or click on the link below, and make sure to check them out. Now the customer said, "Hi there. I was referred to you by someone on the Arcade Museum forums. I own an NSS. There were only about 1,200 ever made. Half of the board uses parts from the SNES. It would appear that the CPU and PPU-1 need to be replaced. Here's the link. I'll ship the board alongside SNES so you can harvest the chips from. Feel free to give me a call or text with any questions." Now I did visit the link, and it looks like those boards, they suffer from a CPU issue and PPU-1 issue. I have not worked with this board before, and I do not know what the common faults with those boards are, but doing some research, it appears that those are the issues with the board. Now let's take a look at the board and see how the CPU looks like. We do have PPU-1 here, right? PPU-1. We have PPU-2. So what we're going to do is we're going to replace PPU-1 as the customer indicated. Like I said, I do not have any prior repair experience working on those boards. I have no way to test this board, but we're going to do what the customer wrote, and based on a lot of forums that I read online, a lot of threads, it looks like PPU-1 and the CPU should fix the problem. So that's what we're going to do for the customer. We have PPU-1 here. Let me focus the camera. And we have the CPU right under. And if you look at the CPU, it's not a BGA chip. It's likely a 20 pin by, I don't know, I did not count the pins. But this looks like, let me count it right now, so we know how many pins we have on the chip. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we have 20 pins, probably around 30 pins here. Yeah, 30. So we have 20 by 30 pins. 40 and 60, 100 pins. No problem. The chip we can replace, PPU-1 we can replace, and we're going to mail this back to the customer. Hopefully the repair will work for the customer. Now those chips are big. They can barely fit under the microscope. I can use a Barlow lens so we can see more of the board. I'm going to add a Barlow lens. If you have purchased our NorthridgeFix microscope, the scope comes with 2 Barlow lenses, 0.5 and 0.75. And that's when you will use Barlow lenses, when you want to see more on the board. Right now I can only see a portion of the chip. I'm not able to see all the pins at once. And I would like to see all the pins at once, so we can make sure that all the pins are aligned properly. So we're going to add a 0.75 Barlow lens. Let me take out the ring light. And you do not see anything right now because no ring light. We're going to add the 0.75 Barlow lens. That will allow our microscope to go up higher and still focus, so we can see more on the board. Let's take a look at the chip. Perfect. Now we are able to see all the pins. Now if I want to see more of the chip, or I want to see more on the board, then we can use our 0.5 Barlow lens instead of 0.75. But for now, 0.5 is perfect for me. I do not want to be too far out. So we're going to stick with 0.5. Both the 0.5 and 0.75, they come with our microscope package. If you have not already bought one, you can log in to NorthridgeFix.com, click on shop, add to cart, checkout, pay, and we almost always ship out same day. We have all the soldering tools that you need. Whatever tools we are using on our bench here, we carry and sell in our shop. Just add to cart, checkout, and orders almost always ship out same day. You can buy everything from a soldering station, hot air station, thermal camera, flux, microscope, power supply, braid wick, tweezers, everything. Right now, I want to label this as NSS. Maybe I should use my silver marker. We know the CPU is for NSS. And we're going to label our PPU1 with NSS. Okay? We do not want to confuse the chips between SNES and NSS, because then we're going to have a problem. We're not going to know which one is good and which one is bad. Pin number 1 is right here, this notch. Notice how we have a square edge, square edge, square edge, and we have a notch here. So pin number 1 starts from here. Right there, pin number 1. So we know how to align the chips. Let's start. We're going to apply hot air. And two ways we can do this. I can lift from under, or I can grab on the pin and lift by the pin. We do not have any surrounding components, and that's good. Fume extractor on. And the chip is out. Let's wait for solder to harden. I do not want to drop the chip so it does not knock off any components on the board. And now we're going to prep the board. But before we prep the board, since the board is still hot, let's go ahead and remove PPU1. All right, so CPU and PPU1 are out. We're done. Now we can send the board to the customer and tell them figure it out, right? No. We're gonna apply flux, prep the pads, get rid of unleaded, apply leaded, and then we're gonna remove the chips of the SNES console and solder the chips on the board. It's a multiple step process. If we do not start, we're not gonna finish. Right now I'm using the NF.mini soldering pen, and it's amazing. I love that tip. If you do not already have the pen and you are in the same type of business, or you are doing this as a hobby, it's a must-have. NorthridgeFix.com, click on shop. Still some people in the comments, they ask, where do you buy that flux from? What's that gooey stuff that you use? Even though I mention it in every video. But I have to keep into consideration that we have new subscribers on the channel every day. We have new viewers. So I need to keep mentioning. How come the pads are not bridging? Because we are using quality flux. That's what flux does. Now the NF.mini solder pen goes up to 450 degrees, and that's what I'm using now. I'm at max temperature. And we did an awesome job. Just look at the joints, the pads. Let's put the board on the side. And now we're gonna jump over to right here, SNES console. We got the CPU here, and we have PPU1 here. So we're gonna remove this chip, and we're gonna remove this chip and solder those back on the NSS board. No problem. So I do not have the chips labeled as NSS. We know that those came from SNES. And like I said, pin number 1 is here. For those who do not know. Some viewers ask, why sometimes you use flux when you desolder and other times you do not? It's always good to use flux. It helps with the desoldering process. It makes solder flow better, but it's not needed when you desolder. Let's put the CPU on the side, and we're gonna jump over to our PPU1. Flux is your friend. Doesn't matter how much you apply, it will only do the job better. Because some people always write in the comments, you apply flux like you have truckloads of flux. We do. We sell that stuff, so we have container loads, not truckloads. And bye-bye SNES. You're officially deceased. We removed 2 chips. And now we're gonna solder the chips back on the NSS board, which I have safely laid down on this cushion. Our good working CPU from the SNES console. Let's use our anti-glare light in combination with the ring light so we can get rid of the reflections. And now we can see much better. Now we're gonna do like I taught my students to do in the training class. The micro soldering training class. We're gonna solder a pin from here and a pin from here, then we're gonna reflow. We just finished our micro soldering training class, and we have a repair training class starting on Tuesday. If you want to join, let us know. Just reach out to northridgefix.com/contact and maybe you can join. We have another class in January, but the date has not been set yet. And the repair training workshop, we're gonna cover everything from A to Z on how to fix and repair electronics. Everything from using a multimeter, diode mode, resistance mode, voltage mode, how to check for a short circuit, how to use the power supply, what to look for when fixing faulty laptops, what to look for when working with game consoles, video cards. Everything will be covered in the repair training course and nothing will be left out. Absolutely nothing will be left out, just like we did with the micro soldering course, A to Z. Students came in here, 6 days, they left with a lot of knowledge. I posted 2 videos on the micro soldering training class where you can see the students in action and you can tell how much they learned. So we're gonna do the same with the repair training course. If you take both the micro soldering course and the repair training course, then you are ready to take on any job. You are ready to start fixing devices and making a lot of money. In this business, you do not have competition. That's what you have to understand. You need to take advantage of not having competition. And you do that with your skills. You invest in yourself. You spend the money to learn. You buy the tools. And now, only the sky is the limit. And what's nice about the training course is students, they have the option to buy all their tools from us, from one place. All the tools that we sell, we actually use on our bench. We do not just sell for the sake of selling, but we make it easy for you. I already went over all those tools. I know what's good and what's not good. And why make your life harder? Now we are reflowing that chip. It's a big chip, so we have to circulate left, top, right, bottom. And we're almost done. Press down on the chip. I'm gonna reflow every side individually. And we have to be careful not to apply excessive heat so we do not damage the board. Excessive heat will cause warping or bubbling in the board or other issues. 101 issues. So we got it. We did an amazing job. We're gonna go over the pins one by one, make sure everything is solid. If not, we're gonna use our NF.mini pen to touch on the pins. Let's start at pin number 1. Solid, solid, solid. I'm not gonna say solid for 100 pins, but if there's anything loose, I'll let you know. And are we recording? Do we have audio? Yes, because yesterday I recorded 3 videos working on video cards. All of them were a fix, and it turned out that we did not have audio on all 3 videos. I had batteries in the transmitter receiver of the microphone, but something was going on with OBS and it did not record audio. Look at this, every single pin is solid. We're gonna check here. Solid, solid. Every 5 pins we say solid. And now we're gonna check the left side. Start from the bottom. Solid, solid, solid. Every single pin. Every single pin is solid. Not even a single one loose. Not even a single pin loose. What more do you want? Not even a single pin bridging. Now we're gonna measure the bottom. The bottom, solid. Oh, oh, we have a loose pin. I wanted all 100 pins to be solid from the first try. We have one loose pin. What can you do? Right there, this one. So we have right there. No problem. The pin want to play games? We are the kings of playing games. It's a gaming board anyway. Which pin was it? You know, just for the sake of this video, just to show you how it's done pin by pin, let's go ahead and solder the CPU pin by pin, even though all the pins are solid. But since I'm already making this video on this console, let's go over it pin by pin. The magic of the NF.mini pen and this very fine tip. So we went over the pins one by one. We can do the same here. You know, I really do not want to go over 100 pins. I already showed you how it's done on the bottom. Why did I get myself into this? Now I have to finish the chip. And finally, we're gonna do this one. It's better to start from over there and make our way down. And it's a tight area. So should we do it or should we not do it? I'm not gonna leave you hanging, so let's do it. Like I said, we did not have to do this, but I got myself into it and now I need to finish it. Now before we clean up, let's go ahead and solder this chip. Then we can clean up and do one final test. Make sure all the pins are solid. And that customer is going to be thrilled to know that we fixed this console for him. This arcade system. And we want to look for pin number 1, and I already got pin number 1 in the correct orientation. That doesn't usually happen. Just like when you plug a USB flash drive, you always tend to plug it in the wrong way first, and then you have to flip it and then plug it again. Always. Like you're driving a car, you go to the fast lane and all of a sudden the fast lane becomes slow and the slow lane becomes fast. Why does that happen? So we're gonna align as much as possible. And in training we did go over this. We actually soldered a bigger chip. We soldered a 128 pin chip. Students did an amazing job. And knowledge is power. When you have the knowledge, everything becomes easy. Should we solder this chip pin by pin, or should we reflow? We can do both, or we can do one of them. As long as the pins are making a solid connection, then we're good. And beautiful. And the last pin looks like it's not aligned. It's a bit bent. That's not a problem. It's not harming anybody. Just leave it alone. Better? "101 ways to solder those pins." On the other side, I pointed my soldering iron horizontally, and on this one I'm doing it vertically. And I forgot if we did the ones on the bottom. Probably not. We're gonna do horizontal. As long as we are touching the pin and the pads. Not just the pin and not just the pad. Alright, and we are done. Now we can clean up. Right now I'm using the NorthridgeFix brush, 99% isopropyl, and Amtech wipes. Lint-free Amtech wipes to absorb all that residue of flux that's left on the board. And look at the wipe. Look at all that residue of flux. The wipe does a very good job at absorbing and taking out all that residue of flux that's left on the board. Flux will not harm the board, but I like to give the customer a board that's as clean as possible. Final step, let's go ahead and check on the pins, make sure everything is solid before we invoice and mail this back to the customer. And I would be extremely shocked if we have a loose pin. No possible way. 99.9999999% chance that we do not have a loose pin. I mean, we overdid this. Hot air and soldering iron. You drop this from a 10-story building and nothing's gonna happen to that chip. The board will obviously break, but nothing will happen to that chip. Very nice. Now we're gonna go over the PPU1 chip. And those are lints left over by the cotton swab that I used before using Amtech wipes. And we are under a microscope, so nothing will be 100% clean under a microscope. You will see dust, particles, and everything else. Very nice. Very nice. And every single pin is making a very solid connection. Wow. Just clean up in between the pins. We soldered the CPU right here and the chip under it, PPU1. Right, board looks clean. Back of the board is all through hole pins for the most part. And we're done. We're gonna end the video right here. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know what you think. Leave it down in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll do something else in the next video. And remember, we have a repair training course starting on Tuesday. If you can make it, just reach out and make the arrangement.